Adversary, opponent, enemy, foe. What's the difference? Opponent implies to a competitive relationship, often used in the context of sports or politics, where two opposing teams or candidates are competing against each other, trying to achieve their own goals, albeit at the expense of the other. While adversary is someone you want to defeat, suggesting a more hostile or confrontational relationship used in the context of legal proceedings, where two parties are engaged in a legal dispute or in military or geopolitical conflicts. An enemy, on the other hand, is someone you have to destroy, a person or group that is actively hostile towards another, usually long-term. Foe, however, is the antonym or the opposite of friend, referring to someone who used to be your friend. Let's look at some examples. Between adversaries, trust is possible. Between enemies, trust is impossible. Today's adversary could be tomorrow's ally. Some players see injuring their opponent as a legitimate tactic. For democracies to work, politicians need to respect the difference between an enemy and an adversary. She had to contest against a very strong opponent for the championship. The fascination of the game lies in trying to guess what your opponent is thinking. Her arrogant behavior on court silenced her opponent completely. She was unsure as yet whether he was a friend or foe. She had a decided advantage over her opponent. He beat his opponent in the election. An enemy's mouth seldom speaks well. Man has not a greater enemy than himself. He was trying to mystify his opponent. He knocked his opponent down with a single blow. The newspaper article criticized friend and foe alike. In debate, he was a formidable opponent. He socked his opponent on the jaw. He who overcomes his anger subdues his greatest enemy. An open enemy is better than a hollow friend. She saw him clearly, arrogant as the devil and cold as ice, a ready-made adversary. The two countries have united against their common foe. I suggest that it is humanism, both religious and secular, that is the dominant philosophical adversary. Every man is his own worst enemy. But in fact, the very first priority of a nuclear aggressor is to pull the teeth of his adversary. The three main diagnoses are those of government overload, adversary politics, and pluralist stagnation. Silently, desperately, it's struggling against a new and all-powerful adversary, the civilization of the capitalist West. The formal political framework facilitates an adversary relationship among political parties, but the underlying reality is the quest for compromise. A courageous foe is better than a cowardly friend. He defeated his old adversary. It had no adversary or coalition relationship with similar organized parties. You are your greatest enemy if you're a coward, but if you're brave, you're your greatest friend. He saw her as his main adversary within the company. He was devious as his adversary was ruthless. He was dismayed at the size of his adversary. The British considered him a worthy adversary. Speak well of your friend, of your enemy say nothing.